Good day, everybody. Welcome back to Earnings Call. My name is Jeffrey Beamer. I'm the Senior Investment Strategist over at ewotrader.com. If you join us each and every week, you know that we don't just talk about stocks. We talk about how to profit from company earnings announcements. Okay. So when I pulled up this week's earnings calendar, one number immediately jumped out to me off the page, and that was 1,590. That is how many companies report over the next 5 trading days. So to put that in perspective, our models are tracking over 3,000 companies that report during the month of August. So more than half of August earnings reports report this week, making it the busiest earnings stretch this entire season. This is by far the busiest week of the month. So every week, our models compare historical earnings behavior with what the options market expects will happen. And this week, we've narrowed down those 1,590 earnings announcements to just 44 companies. And we highlight some of the top of those here on our list here on this show. Okay. So on top of this, Tuesday afternoon marks one of the most anticipated earnings events of the cycle, and that's SpaceX. They will deliver its first quarterly earnings report as a publicly traded company. So we're going to go through the list. We're going to take a look at the best possible candidates, along with trade updates and a new opportunity for you, all starting right now. We kicked off the week today with a big, well-known names. Okay, Marriott announced earnings results this morning. We're going to talk about that in a moment, but you'll see really a list here of who's who. And while it might not be what you expect, especially from over 1,500 companies announcing earnings, these are some of the most consistent reporters of the cycle for this week. Okay, these companies here, of the 44 that I'm tracking, out of that 1,590, narrowed it down to this handful of breakout stocks. Those are the companies on the left that we anticipate, because of the options pricing, will move greater than 10%. Okay, so double-digit moves through the earnings announcements. And then on the right-hand side, we have our quiet stocks. All right, for these, we like to sell premium instead of for the breakout stocks, we buy premium. We sell premium for the quiet stocks. We anticipate that those will make single-digit moves, and that includes anything from really 0 to 9%. Okay, the sweet spot is usually between 2 and 7, but anything that's single digits. Okay, so let's begin with the quiet list. Let me give you an example of a quiet stock. All right, this is McDonald's, and they actually have earnings this week. So we're going to be talking about McDonald's in more detail here in a moment. But you can see here that this stock really moves only a couple of percentage points through earnings, not very much at all. And we'll see what the market is anticipating this week as well for McDonald's. All right, it's normally a favorite of ours to trade. All right, I've already priced it out today. There's an okay trade. It's not the best, but it's okay. And I'll talk about that here in a moment. So let's take a look at our list for quiet stocks this week. And as I mentioned, we start off with Marriott, and then you have household names like Clorox, McDonald's, Caterpillar, Merck, Uber, Walt Disney, Airbnb, okay, ConocoPhillips. And then we close out the week with Vistra and Take-Two. So we'll talk about some of these stocks here. Let's jump over to the charts because, as I mentioned, Marriott started us off today. Okay. The estimated move on Marriott was 5%. And in the morning, right off the bat, the stock gapped down 5%. All right. Now, that's not, we can't really say yet that it moved its estimated move, although on the initial move, it was 5%. It's now down a little over 7. However, we look for the close. Where is the close? That's what matters, okay? The most important price of the day. It's not the open, it's not the high, it's not the lows, it's the close. The close is the most important number of the trading day. So we'll see as we push lower on Marriott. We'll see if that if the buyers step in and bring that up, and we'll see if we do get that 5% estimated move for Marriott. Okay. Next on our list here is going to be Clorox. They will announce later today after market close. Again, this is a quiet stock. All right. The estimated move here is about 5%. And that's pretty consistent. Although the last earnings announcement right here, this was a 9% drop. All right. So it can move a little bit more, but you'll see what happened here. Right after that drop, it rebounded and came right back up to its previous price. Okay. And then just started channeling along in this range. But the average move is around 5%. And that's also what the market makers are pricing in for the move right now. Okay. And what I mean by that is there is a specific formula, and there's, golly, I've seen over the years 3 to 4 different versions of market maker pricing. Okay. There's a quick way, and then there's a more sophisticated way, but they're all around the same number. Okay. So again, it's not me guesstimating at what these moves are going to be. This is what the historical move is combined with what the market is pricing in for this earnings cycle. That's these numbers are derived. Okay. So McDonald's, as I mentioned, reports tomorrow. They do so before market open. The average move here is 4%. And I mentioned that it was an okay trade. What I was finding for a decent iron condor, that is the strategy that we use. Okay. We sell premium, but we don't sell options naked. We always hedge. All right. So an iron condor is ideal because you have a call spread that you've sold on top. You have a put spread that you sold on bottom. Those two credits combined together. To get a decent credit where I like to get those credits, that number is a percentage of the risk in the trade. Okay. That number was right at 4%. There really wasn't an edge. Combine that with McDonald's usually reports on Thursdays, but today, or this week, it's reporting on a Tuesday. That means we got to wait several days at a minimum to really get the big value out of the trade. So the point there is I don't want to be picking up pennies when I can pick up quarters and dollars somewhere else. So I don't want to be picking up pennies and nickels when I can pull up quarters and dollars in other places, if that makes sense. Okay. So Caterpillar, they will announce Tuesday morning also. Big name here, Caterpillar. They will announce Tuesday, August 4th, before market open. And the average expected move here is 5%. Okay. So this is an $800 stock. This is really ideal. All right. I was pricing out Caterpillar today, and we can get some decent pricing, really going 8-9% away from the money, which Caterpillar has moved 9% on earnings before. So I definitely want to kind of go that far out. The problem with Caterpillar are the spreads are wide, which I don't mind on for an iron condor because I can set a limit order, meaning here's my price, either take it or leave it. And then with an iron condor, if you are correct on the move and it does what we expect, we can let this trade expire worthless and we get to keep the entire credit. Okay. So even though the spreads are a little wider, I still would consider Caterpillar. Moving on through our list, we have Merck. All right. Now, Merck will declare Tuesday morning before market open. The average move here is about 4%. Now, the general rule for traders in when I've taught traders and investors around the world how to trade options, one of my monikers is we don't do drugs. Okay. Meaning we don't do drug stocks because sometimes wacky things can happen with the drug companies. Okay. But there are some names like Johnson & Johnson, Merck, some others, Pfizer as an example, that are just consistent quiet movers. Okay. So And by the way, Pfizer announces this week, but you don't see it on their list because Pfizer is about a $20 company, and it just doesn't really fit our model. All right, for an iron condor. All right, for selling premium. But Merck, okay, this is a $127 stock. If the pricing's there, we would definitely trade it. Okay, for their earnings results. Moving on through the list, we move to Wednesday. Okay, now Wednesday we have Uber. Uber is going to announce on Wednesday, August 5th, before market open, and the average move here is about 6%. Now, Uber is one of those companies that's interesting because last earnings cycle, okay, I believe it was during the earnings call, and correct me if I'm wrong here. During the earnings call, the CIO, okay, I believe it was the CIO, was talking about how they incorporate AI into their models and went on for 2 hours. And at the end, their COO looked at how much it cost in tokens to run that demonstration, and it was like $1,500. Okay. So then they looked at their usage, and this was a well-known story. You probably remember this, that through 4 months, they had their engineers had blown through a year's worth of budget in just 4 months, in really just a quarter. Okay. And they changed the whole way they looked at spending towards AI, and it really kind of shook the industry. Going, wait a minute, are we spending money on the most expensive AI to just organize emails and plan meetings? And is there something we can do to make that less expensive? Okay, but that's what Uber. Yeah, that's what I remember about Uber. So, moving on, we have Disney. All right, Walt Disney. They are now sub 100. Interesting. They will announce Wednesday, August 5th, before market open. The average move here is 6%. Now, Disney will give us a good read on the consumer and how they're spending extra cash, and what's attendance like at the parks. And there's it used to be drive-bys in a car. Now it was airplanes that looked at parking lots to see how full parking lots were to help judge consumer behavior. Now they just use drones. Okay, so it kind of all changed in that dynamic, and it's still part of it. Okay, you'll see these companies employing drone companies to fly over parking lots and wherever they can to gather data and to help predict and estimate how the consumer's doing. So, all right. So moving on through the list, going to Thursday. Okay, ConocoPhillips. Now, love the oil companies here. They will announce on Thursday, August 6th, before market open. Lots of these companies announcing in the morning. And interesting to note that some of these companies, and I'll identify them as I can remember them, have changed from after-market close announcements to before market open announcements. Now, that's a little trick, and I'm not sure why they're doing it, but it might be in their earnings. I don't know if ConocoPhillips, I don't remember if ConocoPhillips was one of those, but companies are usually always before market open, or they're always after market close. Okay, seldom do they flip-flop like that. Okay, but Conoco, it's 4% mover on average. It's a $118 stock. We should be able to get off a decent, respectable trade on Conoco. And as you can see through earnings announcements, and again, we're not looking at the overall trend like this big rally here. Oh my gosh, it blew through your break evens on your iron condor. No, we're looking at the earnings announcement like right here, and then the couple days following it. That's it. I'm looking for that implied volatility on those options to come crashing down. Okay, so I sell expensive implied volatility on the options, and I want to buy it back cheap if I buy it back, or let it expire worthless. Okay, so ConocoPhillips, again, I'm not worried about the trends. Okay, I'm not worried about it going from 120 to 102, dropping $20 in a month because I'm not in the trade for a month. Okay. So just looking for the earnings announcement and a couple of days after to allow that implied volatility combined with theta decay, just crush those options. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. Another one that's really setting up nicely is Cheniere Energy. Okay. This will announce on Thursday, August 6th, before market open. The average move here is just 5%. All right. So this is forming, I'm not sure I'm crazy about the pattern. It had about a 6% move last time, I believe that was. Let me just get that. Yeah, just under. It was 5.6. Okay. This move right here was a 5.6% move. So it moved 5%. And then you look what it did, just move sideways. Okay. And that's what we're looking for. All right. But I do see that we're forming a little bit of a triangle here, so a little bit of a pennant there. So I would probably expect a little bit of a move, but again, probably around 5 or 6% is all for Cheniere Energy. Okay, now Airbnb, always lots of information coming out about Airbnb and Verbo, but Airbnb specifically, they will announce on Thursday, August 6th, after market close. And the average move for Airbnb is now just 6%. Okay. Just 6%. Now, all right, moving on to Friday, we have Vistra Energy that will announce earnings on Friday morning. Vistra is, it's a company close to my heart just because it's a locally based company here in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area where I'm based. And we have this company, believe it or not, has been around since 1882. Yes, it's probably not one of those name brand companies you think of every day, but it's been around for 144 years. So a long time company, been around for quite a while. And I don't know if you can see it, but I see a nice big trading range here for Vistra. All right. Nice big trading range that's been happening for, golly, since March. Okay. So they will announce earnings Friday morning. The average move here is about 7%, but I see some opportunity. This is a $150 stock, and we might have some decent opportunity here. So we'll be talking more about Vistra here in just a moment. All right, that's our quiet list. And let's get to what everybody loves, and that's the breakout stocks. Okay. Now, we're going to go through our list, and there's a name in here you might be interested in. In fact, two, really, because Akamai, which is our example that we talk about every week, is also on the list because they announced this week. So Akamai is what we call a breakout stock. It has an average move of about 15% through earnings. All right. It's a mover. And these stocks are often priced that way too. But we're looking for an edge. If we can get a trade off, meaning a straddle or strangle, yes, we're buying higher implied volatility. But if we can get that at a decent price that's a little less than what the average move has been, like, for example, the option market makers might be pricing in a 12% move. But if its history is a 15, that gives us an edge. Okay. So let's talk about it. All right. Let's take a look at the list. And we'll see that we start off the week with Palantir, and then we have Wayfair and Wix and Shopify and e.l.f. A lot of guys don't know what e.l.f. is, but a lot of the women do. Okay. Eyes, lips, and face. Okay. Beauty company. All right. Akamai, there it is on Thursday, and we close out the week with Oklo. But let's talk about the list. Let's start with Palantir here. All right. We jump to the chart, and we can see that they announced today, August 3rd, after market close, and the average move here is about 12%. All right. So this stock is a mover. And it's been talked about. And I think I just heard, believe it or not, CNBC, Oliver Rennick, I believe is his name, reporting from the SIBO. I think he was talking about Palantir today, and they were pricing in about a 10% move. So that might be where the edge is. But this is a $125 stock. And the problem with doing a straddle or strangle on a $125 stock is that oftentimes these things are like $1,400, $1,500, $1,600, or higher. And so it takes a larger account. Okay. So if you got account $25,000 or more, not a problem. Okay. But if you're trading a $5,000 or $10,000 account, you don't want to be messing with Palantir. There's other companies out there that we trade on a regular basis. And you'll like one or two of them in our list this week for smaller accounts. Okay. All right. Moving on through the list, we have Wayfair. They will announce on Tuesday, August 4th. Okay. Before market open, the average move here is also 12%. Now, Wayfair is usually a pretty consistent mover. You can see a little thump down after the last earnings announcement. And then, it doesn't look like kind of a big move, but the stock was up at 91.48 was the close the day before earnings. And then after it opened at 76. Okay. So going from 91 to 76, that was the open. And then rallied from there, closing at 79 for the day. So from 91 to $79, that's a little bit of a mover there. Okay. And then this 30%er right here. I mean, just this stock can move. And the big thing about Wayfair is, of course, tariffs and the impact on some of the products that it imports and ships out to you. If you've never used Wayfair before, definitely kind of a smaller version of Amazon when it relates to stuff for furniture and things like that for for the home or for garage or the patio or that's what I at least use it a lot for. So anyway, Wayfair will announce on Tuesday after market close. Then we have Wix, okay, software company here, mostly internet. This one or web page, at least that's how I remember they were created. Just creating domains and creating websites. Okay, they will announce on Tuesday, August 4th, before market open. So tomorrow morning. And believe it or not, the average move here is 14%. Now, this is a $50 stock. Okay, that's currently trading at $57. This is getting more in the range for those smaller accounts here. You're going to be paying upwards of $1,000. Okay, between probably 500 on the low end, around 1,000 on the high end. Okay, so make sure you have an account that can accomplish this. But this, look at these gaps. Okay, and then big move up, and then a gap higher through earnings. I mean, this thing pops and drops. Okay, so pay attention to Wix. They will announce tomorrow morning, first thing. e.l.f., as I talked about, e.l.f., eyes, lips, face. Okay, this one is a historic mover. Its average move, however, has come way down. Okay, this used to be one of my favorite stocks to trade with straddles or strangles because it always exceeded the estimated moves. Those moves are rapidly dropping, and you'll see this average move of 12%. And doing an eyeball test of where this thing would be pricing. Let's see here, $82. So it's pricing at $1,100 roughly, doing the quick math in my head, straddle strangle divided by 2. Okay. So yeah, about $1,100. Okay. So what is an $11 of 82? And then you do the math there. Do you have an edge to trade this, or do you not have an edge to trade this? Okay. But it is a double-digit mover. Speaking of double-digit movers, we have Innodata. Now, this will announce earnings results. Excuse me while I dress this up. Declares Thursday, August 6th, after market close. The average move here is now 15%. Now, you see this big move last time on earnings. That move was an 86% move. So it kind of skews the numbers a little bit. So I've tried to adjust and account for that, kind of reducing the impact of that over the overall data. This stock overall, over the past 3 to 4 earnings announcements, has really started to move. Prior to that, it was on the quiet list. But now this thing has turned into a mover. And you can see the volatility. Yeah, just really look at the size of these intraday moves through the candles and compared to what it was before May. I mean, look how big these candles are compared to prior, and then it gets kind of into these normal moves. Now we've started to get a little bigger here, but this one will be interesting to watch. Okay, $65 stock, and it definitely can be a big mover. So watch out for that. Datadog, okay. What do you know? A company still based in New York. That's where Datadog is based. Didn't know if any of those were left, but they are still there. All right. They will announce on Thursday, August 6th, before market open, and the average move here is $11. The problem with Datadog is look at the stock value. It's a $274 stock. All right. Again, only the largest of accounts can really trade a straddle or strangle on this. Okay. And actually, for a $200 stock, I would hope that it has an average move that's more like 15 or 20%. I really want a big bang for the buck based upon the amount of risk I'm taking in the trade. Okay. But it is a double digit mover. Okay. So I did include it here. Two more left here on this volatile list. We have Akamai, which we've already talked about. Okay. The average move right now, and it's expecting a 15% move. They will announce on Thursday, August 6th, after market close. Okay. The average move here is 15%. And you can see, how the stock gaps around here through its earnings announcements. Okay. Nice little thumper right there. A big mover. And again, if you can get 3 out of 4, meaning out of the year you're doing 4, you would have the opportunity to trade earnings 4 times. For the breakout list, if you can win 3 out of the 4 times, you're making some great money. Usually, you're making some great money, and that's the case for Akamai. Okay, it look at my scaling here. It's every $10. If I kind of widen it here, let me narrow it there. Here's did not take much. Every $25. So, meaning, I want to look and see how this thing moves. And in a month during June, look at this. Look at this move here, going from 160 down to a low of 113 in less than a month. That's a mover. Okay. And it started to consolidate going into earnings here. So that's why it will be fun to watch or fun to trade. It is a $110, $115, $17 stock here. And so it will be a little bit more expensive, probably around $1,500 to trade that. But if that opportunity is there to make that money, Akamai would definitely be on the list. And closing out the week, this is definitely one for the smaller accounts, is Oklo. They will announce on Friday morning. That will be August 7th before market open. And the average move here is just 12%. Okay. 12% for Oklo. This is a $41 stock. This is actually, if the pricing's there, even small accounts can definitely do this one. And watch out for that, because this thing can, move. Now, it didn't move necessarily a lot immediately after earnings, but look at the sell-off after that earnings announcement. Okay, so if you don't get the initial move, then you'll get either a rally or a sell-off, and that counts. Okay, because you can go out, a week or two beyond the expiration and buy your straddle or strangle, and then look for the move, and then maybe some follow through either up or down on it. Okay. And finally, let's close it out with the stock that everybody is thinking about. They're going to announce tomorrow, Tuesday, after market close. Now, we don't have any history here on SpaceX. Okay. So how do we know how much it's going to move? Well, we look at the option pricing, and right now options are pricing in a move of 16 to 18% for SpaceX. Okay. That is where they are pricing the move through earnings for SpaceX is 16 to 18%. Okay. So, stock is right at $109 now. That could take it well below 100. or bring it way back up to where its IPO was. Remember, the IPO was $135 and it opened up trading back here at 150. Okay. So people are eyeballing that $135 number to kind of get back up there. And then I believe it's 3 days after is the first round that insiders can actually start, or those that are in lockups right now can start selling shares. And really, you're going to have two types of people. You're going to have those types of people that do want to um, take their profits. Okay. And yes, there are people that probably their cost basis here is probably $10 or maybe $5 or, real cheap, like people that have been in the company for a long, 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 long time. And they got their cost basis on the shares is much less than $109. They may want to take profits. And there's others that say, oh my gosh, the opportunity here is tremendous. There's no way I would sell shares. There's going to be those two factions really battling it out. Okay. So those are our lists this week. Lots of candidates, lots of action, lots to watch. You'll see the list there, and I couldn't squeeze SpaceX really on there because really all three of those stocks, I probably could have removed that middle stock there, but and put in SpaceX, but it's one that SpaceX is one that we're watching. We're not going to trade it. We're not going to try to trade it. We want some consistency in how does this stock behave through earnings, and that's how we generate an edge in it. Okay, if we were to trade it, it would be pure speculation, and that's not really good for our earnings club members. So we want to create the best edge possible. Now, speaking of earnings club members, okay, so here we are on earnings call, and we have a publication called Earnings Club. We'll attach a link for it at the bottom of the video. This is a very inexpensive way to trade what we show every week. Okay, I send out the alert. I give you the exact strike prices. I send updates. I send you exit strategy. And what we are trading here this week, we'll get to in a moment. But I want to talk about last week's trade, because last week's show, I mentioned our trade of the week was going to be Mastercard. And something happened that really hasn't happened in the length of the show. And that is that the pricing wasn't there for Mastercard. Okay. So we changed. I sent an alert out to our customers, our subscribers, saying, hey, we're going to trade Rivian instead. Okay. We're going to do a strangle on Rivian because Mastercard, the pricing, again, don't want to pick up pennies and nickels when I can normally trade for quarters and dollars. All right. Rivian was an opportunity that we took, and this was going to be a strangle. All right. So we did a strangle, and our risk in this thing was about $380. We did it twice. Okay. $380. And let's update this because we're still in the trade. All right. It thumped down and it dropped about 9%. All right. And then it rallied today a little bit, but it's actually off of that high right now. Well, it's gone back up. It's currently at 1566. So it's about right there where that little green bar is. But we're looking for some follow through to the downside. All right. So one day does not necessarily change the trend. I'll probably give it one more day and then we'll assess it. And then we may exit. If we had to exit here, we'd have a small loss. Okay. We're looking for a little further push down to either break even or have a small profit. Didn't quite move the amount that we wanted it to. Rivian is normally a pretty volatile stock. So we'll look for some follow through here. So what are we going to trade for this week? Well, I hinted around it, and it's going to be Vistra. Okay. Vistra Energy. All right. Our little stock from Texas. We're going to trade it and iron condor on this thing. And I'll send this out to our subscribers here in a moment. But essentially, we're selling a call spread on top. We're selling a put spread on the bottom, making sure that this stock can stay in between the break evens of our trade. And that is our trade of the week. And we'll update it next week and tell you how we did. And we'll also talk about Rivian next week because, like I said, it's still an open trade. And we'll see how we did on Rivian as well. So you'll want to come back and join us next week. It is a big week All right. Once again, almost 1,600 companies announcing earnings this week, including SpaceX. Lots to watch. So keep your eyes wide open. We could see some market moving events happen this week. Everybody hang on, and we'll talk about it all next week. So everyone have a great trading week. I'll see you again soon. Take care.